I'm Paul from Contact Renovation and Custom Homes. This is the Art of Renovation Live. This week I have Alex Putnam here from Terra Landscaping. We're talking about living walls and the various options. And I mean, they're beautiful. We see that. I guess we should talk a bit about the options that are available to people. So here's an image I popped up in the background where this is more of, it's living wall as art versus something where we get into more of a biofilter type situation where it's actually living plants within your home. So I'll let you talk a bit about the different types, whether it's preserved, passive, or biofiltered. We won't get too technical in this segment. If people have really questions about what they can do technically in their home, we'll take those and we'll respond to them. But for now, we'll keep it more talk to them a bit more common terms.
For sure, yeah. I mean, like, living walls are definitely a passion of mine. They're beautiful. They're gorgeous. They're the way of the future when it comes to incorporating biophilic or biophilia design into your home or into your office or just areas you're going to be living or working or interacting with.
Right.
At Terra Landscaping, we work with 3 different types of living walls in our systems. Our first one is the Nedlaw biofilter living wall. That's what we call an active living wall. So there's active moving components behind it that actively filter your air and lower your building costs, or lower your building operating costs by reducing the amount of air you have to bring inside your building and spending a lot of money on heating or cooling it. I can go into a lot more detail on that if you guys want to contact me later on.
We'll do that next time.
Yeah, next time for sure. The second systems we work with are our passive living wall systems, and they're basically like an active wall, but they just remove all the mechanical components from them. And it's just a growing medium or pockets where the plants sit in and live, and they provide really gorgeous biophilic effects. They add great aesthetics to the place, and they do add some level of air quality and air enhancement, but nothing on the level that an active biofilter wall does.
Right.
And then our third system is our preserved or moss walls. And that was one of the pictures there that Paul showed you right there. And these are great for a client wanting something really low maintenance. The plants and moss are preserved through a bio-friendly glycerin technique, and then their colors are enhanced through a series of bio-friendly food dyes. And they're really great. They're fun. They're cool. They work great for company logos, branding. They're really cool. And once you install them and put them on your wall, you pretty much don't need to touch them ever again.
Right. Something like that. So that's into your preserved. When you get more into the, let's say, passive. So a passive, just to break it out here, is basically you have plants that are kind of hung together in some sort of a structure, and you then as the homeowner need to come in there and is that the process behind them?
Well, it depends on the client, I guess. So like, we do sell like ready to go, ready to hang units that a customer can come in, buy it, go hang it themselves, buy the plants themselves and do all that, or we can come in and we can offer that service for them as well. In passive systems, the plants are typically planted into what we call a series or groups of cassettes. And in those cassettes, they'll have a wicking system behind them with a trough at the bottom of it and a piece of cotton that sits in it that wicks up the water. And the plants live in these little pockets on the cassettes in front of it. So you can get in there and you can hand plant those. And then on the other passive living wall system we work with, it's like a cassette, but they're more like printed 3D mods, or like pocket mods of plastic, and then the plants get planted into those little pockets again. But that system there has an irrigation system in it.
Gotcha. Or
can have an irrigation system in it, so you can have that hooked up to a timer and a pump or something like that. And those walls actually work really great in exterior and interior applications, whereas our other living wall with the cassettes and the wicking system do best in interior applications.
Gotcha. Got a couple questions here. Yeah. One from the beautiful Taddy Last. This is my wife. I better answer her question.
Totally.
How much light is needed, or how much light does these walls need? Can it be in the entrance of a house with only a little window? So that's just my house. So we have our front entry only has one small little window that's fairly high up off the ground. Would a living wall system work there, or do these things? Like, do you pick different plants that you can put and install within the system, or how does that work?
So we use like the plants we use in the majority of our living walls are tropical plants. Tropical plants, believe it or not, are really, really hardy. They have high competition in those really lush environments like Hawaii or Costa Rica. You know, so they do well under stress, and they can do well with being abused, basically. That's why most people sell tropical plants for your home. When it comes to light, it depends how much natural light you're getting into your building. If you do have large south-facing windows that can allow for enough natural light to come in, then we don't recommend going with any lights. But 80% to 90% of the cases, we're adding some type of artificial light to the wall. That ensures wall plant health and viability. It also ensures that the product's going to look great, and it also ensures that the plants themselves aren't going to suffer at all.
Gotcha.
So in most of the cases, we do add a lighting to it. And there's, you know, as you know, there's tons of options out there that you can use for lighting fixtures. You can run simple track lightings or pot lights. And then from there, we add in high efficiency LED grow lights. They can come in different varieties of spectrums depending on the type of color they're emitting to suit the kind of interior application of the house. But for most of the time, we work with a full spectrum, high efficiency LED grow light, and that's what we typically do for the majority of our living walls.
Right. So if you have something without much natural light, then you'd look at then putting some sort of lighting system in. And I guess that would then we talk a bit about on the renovation side of things. Where do we need to rough in power to? What kind of how are we going to incorporate the light into a design? Is there going to be a valence built around it? Is it suspended from the ceiling above it? So like a landscaping plan or an interior renovation design, you also need to consider how are we going to make this work, right? Even if it's a passive wall system, you still need some lighting. If we're getting into active or, you know, the biofilter setup, then we're talking about incorporating, you know, running water and drainage. We're talking about tying it into your HVAC, most likely, things of that nature, right? So definitely things to consider. We had another question earlier from Alyssa, and she's asking about, you know, talk about how much something like this might cost. So I'm assuming on the you know, preserved side versus the biofilter, there's a big difference in cost between each one, and also different levels of maintenance that are required. So let's keep it simple, I guess. But what can you expect on, for example, I'll pull up this image above the couch here, which is a preserved, basically looks like an art piece. What would something like that generally cost?
So something like that with framing, install, and hanging, something like that is going to cost you around, that one, I think that one was about 3.5 by 8, so 18 square feet. Like that one's going to cost you around that $300 to $3,500 mark, including frames.
Gotcha. So it's like a piece of artwork, right? I mean, you're not going to like IKEA and buy like a piece of art printed this grade. Yeah, exactly. And that includes the install as well and everything, right? So they're not, you know, and yeah, so that for a piece like that, you're looking at about an average price. So an average price for like a square foot for a preserved wall, we're looking at around that $75 to $85 price per square foot. Okay, and we get into now, let's say we get into a passive wall, which I'm assuming that's what this image, I can't crop it here any better, but
that's a passive system.
This one at the end of the hallway. Would that be, is this a passive or biofilter wall, this one?
That's a biofilter. That's an active biofilter. Yeah.
Okay, this one?
Same thing, that's the same one,
Okay.
This one here, yeah. So that's a passive system there, and I believe that the majority of our passive living wall systems run between the $250 to $300 per square foot mark, and that include, you know, irrigation, frame, pump, water base, and all that kind of stuff, right? Plants, and that's everything on our end of it. With some of our smaller passive systems, customer can go right out and just buy that system itself and install it, and they can just take care of the planning themselves if they want. So there's a few more budget-friendly options on our passive systems.
Got you. And then when we get into the actual biofilter system, we won't talk about pricing there. I don't think it really applies to the average. I guess I shouldn't say that. Are you putting the biofilter systems into homes very often, or are they typically at this point mostly in the commercial application?
We see them in both. So we do them in residential homes. We do them in commercial applications. We do see more of them in commercial, and that kind of boils down to just what the intention of the biofilter wall is going to be doing in that space. You know, it doesn't make sense to put in a big biofilter wall into a home that isn't going to be understanding the benefits of it, and they want something just more beautiful. So
Right.
that's why we like to do it. And then in commercial applications with the biofilter wall, when it comes to the cost saving side of it, if you get in the initial process and you start working with them with the engineers and stuff from the beginning, you can really scale the wall correctly to optimize your building performance. And that's one of the things you can see here. This is the wall at the Edmonton Federal Building, downtown Edmonton there on 107th Street. It's big, it's beautiful, it's 2,400 square feet. There's 2 waterfalls that flow through it. This system is hooked up to the HVAC system of that building. So it's pulling in all this contaminated air, filtering it, cleaning it, temperature stabilizing it, adding a certain level of humidity to it, and then it pumps it back into the whole building. So it gets that air quality benefit to everywhere that needs it. And it also lowers, you know, you got 2,400 square feet pulling an average of 50 liters per second. That's a huge reduction in the outside air you're bringing in. By reducing the amount of outside air you're bringing in, you're spending less money on heating it, you're spending less money on cooling it, and that's where you get your energy savings from.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're beautiful,
So
right? I mean,
different
that's
applications. Oh, yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So if someone's considering home renovation, and let's say, like, I know I'd love to put one in my house at some point, but we'll get to that here one day. But what needs to be considered when you factor in, you know, whether it is a biofilter or passive, like what needs to be considered when deciding where to put the living wall and the size of it and things of the, you know, what should be considered when you're designing one?
If we're working with a new build, it boils down basically, and we got like a clean slate, we can put it anywhere. If we can substitute with light, we can get our plumbing run to it. We can put them in a lot of places. When it comes to retrofitting, that is when things get a little bit more complicated on the type of system we can install. Just because if it is going to need a basin with a pump located in a mechanical room, then you got to run your plumbing and you got to run your electrical to those areas, right? And then back up to the wall. And in some cases, your wall could be in your front entryway, but your plumbing and your basin, where your water is stored and the pump is, can be 50 or 60 feet away in your mechanical room in your basement. So there's a little bit more of a play there, but it all depends on what's getting done inside the building. With our passive living wall systems, they're a lot more flexible in that regards when it comes to how well they work in like a retrofit or in a renovations concept. The great thing about them is some of the systems that we work with, depending on the size of it, you can literally screw them to your wall. Just mount them through your stud. They come waterproof, ready to go. You know, you're looking at about 3.5 to 4 inches of outcrop from it. Depending on what you want to do, you can even recess that into your wall still if you want to. So I think it kind of depends on the scope of what is being done, but things to consider is where your wall is being placed in your building. Does it have enough natural light? Does it not have enough natural light? If so, then you're going to need to substitute for artificial light. Is it going to be a hand watering, self-wicking system? Well, then you're not going to need any worries about running plumbing or irrigation to it. On our end, we're just going to make sure that either we take care of the maintenance on the job or we just train someone in-house to do that, which is relatively minor. Another thing to consider too is traffic area. You know, we get a lot of restaurants wanting to put living walls in, and sometimes they want to put them in right in the front entryway of, let's say, like an Earl's, where they have doors opening all the time. You know, in the winter, those plants are going to die, and then your investment is going to look not very good, right? So you have to consider where you're going to be placing it as well inside your building, and also too, what is going to come in contact with it. You know, are you going to have chairs that are going to be bumping into it when you stand up? You're going to have shoulders brushing it on their way into the bathroom, right? And that's where, you know, falling back into the design side of stuff, you know, you have to be able to think about those projects and think about those things to make sure that you can get your walls in the right places you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it comes to oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
What about making one of these like an herb garden kind of living wall?
Yes.
They have that where you actually can grow your own herbs and maybe some vegetables inside. Is that something you've done before? Yeah.
So people get them, like people put them in their gardens all the time. So one of the things we love to do is, in your landscaping design and construction side of it, if we're building a big garden for you, we put in a couple of the exterior living wall applications of one of our passive systems we have. We can put those in, and then you can grow vertical vegetables in there, vertical herbs, anything herbaceous. So you can do dill, thyme, oregano, parsley, cilantro. You can do strawberries. You can do other small deciduous type like fruiting plants. So
Could you do that on
they are
the?
flexible from there too.
Could you do that with an interior application as well?
Yes, yes, you can. You totally can. Like
Yeah.
some of the systems we have are like 20 centimeters by 30 centimeters or 45 centimeters by 60 centimeters. So you can put
Okay.
that like right next to your kitchen, have your herbs in there growing. Every time you want to make your favorite pasta, just take some fresh basil, throw it in there. It's going to be way better, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely.
so
Got a question here
yeah.
from Alicia Wheeler here. How would you train someone to maintain a living wall? Is that something that you guys offer in house, right? When you sell them, you then train someone, or you offer the service to go in there and maintain it yourself. But the average homeowner, we consider them trainable, and what does that take to do so?
Yeah, definitely we consider these walls trainable, especially like our passive systems. Um, Basically, when it comes to the maintenance of the walls, you want to make sure that water is getting to where it needs to go. So the plants have access to water, to nutrients. Another thing to look to is because most of these walls they're beautiful. It's aesthetic based, right? That's kind of the impact that they have. So you want to make sure the plants are actually looking healthy as well. So you want to go through and kind of remove any dead or dying material, trim that back. If you got some brown tips, you can snip those off. And sometimes as the wall matures, there's areas where sometimes the plants might not do as well or less, so you might have to replace a few here and there, and as the wall goes on, and we'll just show you how to properly do that to remove the roots from the cassettes or the pockets, and then to make sure that you plant them correctly. You don't compress the roots too hard. You still give them the space they need. You have to make sure you don't damage any of their root structure too much. So it's relatively pretty straightforward when it comes to the passive living wall systems. So we feel pretty comfortable, offering in-house training to the people that want to need it and actually have the time to take it on to make sure that their investment grows. And that's the big thing, is that not everyone has the time to make sure this grows, and they want someone else to make sure it looks great. And so it really boils down to, if you got time and if you really care and love working with plants, they'd be happy to train you. And the great thing about when we find clients like that, we know the wall's going to succeed because they
Yeah,
love working with in the first place. So
absolutely. As far as if there's someone who knows they want a living wall in their home and they don't know a lot
yeah,
about plants, I
yeah,
presume that you help them first to design it, and you then select different plants based on how high maintenance they might be, and then
yeah,
different colors together to make it
color,
pretty and lay it out.
yeah, yeah. We definitely do. Like, some people maybe only want 2 or 3 types of colors in their wall. Some people might want like a wild jungly look. Other people's might want like a certain lot, like a pattern in it, or even like branding or a logo into their wall, which is something we can do.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that thought process behind it for sure. When it comes to the plants, we work with about 20 to 25 different types of varieties of plants that we know that succeed in the walls. They look beautiful. They're relatively low maintenance, because the last thing you want is to have something that you have to constantly be maintaining over and over and over again. You want something that is maybe on like a monthly or bi-weekly schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the plants we do choose, they're hardy, they look good, they have good colors. We know they succeed in the walls, and they're beautiful. So
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm a fan, and certainly I've been trying to get one of these incorporated into one of our renovation projects, but they're not for everyone, or I think not many people have considered them yet, right? And how it
yeah,
can impact visually the space in your home, and what it can do for you too, to have that, that to bring that special look and feel and the sensation of having more live plants in your home.
mhm,
I know my wife, our house is full of plants and I love it. I mean, if it was up to me, it would be, well, if it was left up to me, there wouldn't be much in there, just because I'm not good at maintaining plants and I'm a bit lazy about it.
yeah,
But to have one of these
yeah,
systems installed would be great, because in the end, you know, it brings so much beauty into the home, and you know, helps with air quality too, right? So
It really does. And
um, fire away.
yep. Oh, well, it's just there's this idea out there called biophilia, and biophilia is like it's the tendency to interact or be closely associated with other life forms in nature. You know, we've all done it. You know, how many of us have skipped work or skipped school to go fishing, to go hiking, to be in nature, right? Or when we go to work on our favorite art project or just to brainstorm, we'll go sit in a field to do that. We're doing that to have this interaction, this connection with nature that can often be lost in your home and in your workplace. So by incorporating more plants, living walls, green roofs, better landscaping design, all that type of stuff, you're having better biophilic design, better biophilic effect on you yourself. There's been a couple studies actually done out of Harvard that I could actually link to on our website if anybody wants to check it out. But they say that, I can't remember the exact data, but there's decreased absenteeism in workplaces, performance of your employees go up, and you create a healthier living environment for your employees. So they're more enthusiastic to show up to work for you or to work for themselves. So there's major beneficial effects. And right now, with our partnership with Netlaw Biofilters Living Wall, we're creating the LAPT, which is the Landscape Architecture Performance Tool, which is basically going to measure the impact of biophilic design into workplaces and into your home to make it more accountable to future shareholders and stakeholders that want to invest in these systems. So
Yeah. Yeah, there's
pretty cool
definitely
stuff.
a lot more to consider than I think people realize when it comes to the benefits of putting something like a living wall in your home. And like anything, right? If it's a good design, you pick good
Yeah.
quality, good products, you know, and if we design it around ultimately what makes them tick, right? Something that they
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
And some people aren't even
Yeah.
aware of what's available to them. And that's part of why I'm doing this series now, is because I think
Yeah.
it's all about educating people to show them what's available, what you can
Mm-hmm.
do, and to give them kind of, you know, the idea where to start as far as the
Yeah.
design process goes, things to consider, and set them up for success, right? The last thing we want to do in the end is have people taking on projects or starting projects, and in the end, they kind of backfire because of, you know, a lack of thought up front or not being aware of what was available to
Mm-hmm.
them in the marketplace. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, I think, living walls, I think we're just on the edge of seeing,
Yeah.
you know, the potential for those within our projects and in homes in general.
Totally. I agree. Like, I feel really confident, and, you know, minus everything else that's going on right now, you know, you're going to see more and more and more green design being brought into everything.
Mm-hmm.
One place that actually has been leading in it right now, two places, New Zealand, post-earthquake they had there, they're taking that opportunity to completely redesign their urban spaces and how they're going to be interacting it. Another one that's leading the way right now is Vietnam. Vietnam is incorporating biophilic design into pretty much every new building they're building. And it's gorgeous. Some of the pictures, some of the stuff they're making out there is, I'm like, geez, I should move to Vietnam and do more living walls out there or something.
Yeah.
So,
I tell you, there's been a couple of basements we've done in the last couple of years where I think people were ahead of the curve. We found all sorts of weird things growing in their basements, and we pulled their walls open. And oh wait, that's a different type of growth. That's not the
yeah,
one we're going
definitely.
for. But anyhow,
That's another one we're going for sure.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. Anyhow, I don't know if more questions out there for us or not, but definitely, it's great talking with you. I know that you can certainly, you're a knowledge of, or a wealth of knowledge when it comes to these things. And, you know, if I have clients or people that have more specific questions about it, then I'll direct them to you directly, and we can, you know, open up that conversation for you. And, you know, hopefully we can get to include more of these in our projects moving forward. And
mm-hmm.
I think really it'll help to increase the beauty of someone's home, but also the quality of life for the people in it as well.
Exactly. And that's the ultimate goal, you know, for us. We want to make people's lives better, and this is a great way to do it, you know, is through living walls. So
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we'll wrap it up here. If anybody has any questions, you can fire away now just in the feed. Otherwise, you can get a hold of me over at Contact Renovations. It'll be info@contactrenovations.ca. You can get a hold of Alex over at Terra Landscaping. You want to give a shout out to how they get a hold of you here?
yeah, for sure. We actually just launched a new website, so check it out at www.terraland.com. Also, too, give our office line a call, 780-470-0748. Ask for either myself or Christian. We'll be able to help you out and go from there. So,
Great. Right on. Well, thanks a lot, Alex. I appreciate it. It's been great
yeah,
chatting
thank
with
you, Paul.
you. And we'll be back again next week on Tuesday. And we'll get into a new exciting new topic in regards to renovations and things to consider in the coming months here. Thanks again.
Great.
I'm Paul, Contact Renovations. This is the Art of Renovation Live.